Akira Mikasugi was teaching his history lesson when suddenly the reckless Iragamagori breaks in with his army. He wants to find out who is involved in espionage. Suzuki escapes with a smoke bomb, but Ira stops him from leaving. He throws him into the street where he will punish him, but Suzuki, who stole the first star's ultra form, changes into it and dodges all of Ira's attacks. Having tried to strike, the uniform of the third star Ira protects, Ira despises the spy and valiantly punishes him. Ira reminds all students of the school rules. The president of the student council, Satsuki Kiryuin, reminds him of himself in a haughty manner. On the way to Hanoji School, Ryuko Matoi appears. While walking through the unshakable city, Ryuko knocks down Mamoru Mankenshoku, who stole a slice of lemon instead of a wallet. Ryuko mocks the boy's clumsy skills. Out of anger, he calls his gang together to beat up Ryuko, but for her they were very easy. The gang apologizes for disturbing them. Ryuko forgives them and moves away. Behind her, Mako Mankenshoku flies into Mamoru and begins to scream at her little brother. Mako apologizes for his brother and very quickly realizes that he is late for school. Ryuko can't wait to break into this school. She becomes the new girl in Mako's class. She sits next to her and sees how bored Mako is in class. After the lesson, the energetic Mako wants to make even more friends. She haunts Ryuko. Ryuko wants to find out who is the coolest in this school. At this time, everyone begins to bow. She meets Ira and learns more about him. Mako mentions Satsuki, who was already here. Ryuko gets in her way and her actions seem harsh. Ryuko takes out the scissors without the other half. She finds out that Satsuki was the one who took the other half. Ryuko attacks her, but she knocked down by Takaharu Fukuroda. Ryuko tries with all her might to resist him, but she gets so much worse that she can no longer stand on her feet. Satsuki expected more. She orders the scissors to be confiscated from Ryuko. Hearing this, she distracts the boxer and runs to steal a moped from a local. Mikasugi watched everything from afar. The student council leaders reprimand Fukuroda for disobedience. We are shown Uzusane Jama, Hauka and Yumuda and not on Jakuzer. From his people, Satsuki learns that Ryuka has the surname Matoi. In an abandoned house, Ryuko apologizes to her dead parents and stabs the scissors into the ground, causing the basement to activate and causing her to fall. Akiru foresaw everything. Falling down, she is surprised that there was a basement here. Someone's voice comes from under the garbage. The talking form forcibly tries to climb on top of her and succeeds. Fukuroda calls out to Ryuko, taking Mako hostage. Akiru thinks this is cruel, but the director cannot influence Satsuki. Subordinates deliver hot oil. Mako's family is worried about her. Ryuko runs out of the crowd and saves Mako. Finally, Fukuroda will be able to take revenge on her. The first round begins and Fukuroda throws a lot of punches at her, but Ryuko doesn't care. With a decisive blow, he removes her rags. Underneath there was a very impressive costume that made Ryuko embarrassed. Fukuroda takes off his padded gloves and the second round begins. From a strong blow, his glove breaks. He cannot believe it. It's Ryuko's turn. Her suit comes off and she begins to glow. She fights back the boxer well. Everyone is surprised by the scissor blade, but Satsuki begins to suspect otherwise. Ryuko throws the boxer at Satsuki. Ryuko takes the microphone and explains where she got such things from. She also asks who Satsuki's scissor user is. Satsuki finds out that Ryuko is the daughter of Isshin Matoi. She begins to lose strength and soon runs away from school. They try to stop her, but Satsuki orders the army to leave her. Ryuko arrives on a tram and collapses. When she wakes up, she makes eye contact with a shady man. She takes her scissors, and Mako begins to blame her father. Ryuko apologizes for the inconvenience. Mako introduces her to Barazu Mankenshoku. She also meets Mako's mother, Tsukuyo Mankenshoku. Ryuko finds out that she was cured by Mako's father, who is an underground doctor, but not at all experienced. Mom brings questionable food. The noisiest dinner begins in the Mankenshoku house. Satsuki at the Ultra Mold Factory explains how they work. Satsuki trusts the head of the tennis club Omiko Hakude 2-star Ultra form. She is very grateful to her. While everyone is sleeping, Ryuko wants to find out who her form really is. She remembers the first time she put it on. The form said that she had lost her memory, but only remembers the creator. Her creator was Ryuko's father. Ryuko gives the name Senketsu to the form. She is woken up by Mako, who is in a hurry to go to school. On the way to school, Mako talks about where the students live. Near the school, Mako is interrupted by Omiko, who is throwing tennis balls at her. She does this for yesterday's truancy, but then Mako was held hostage. Ryuko asks Mako to leave. Ryuko wants to fight, but her form doesn't work. Omiko seizes the moment and throws balls at her, throwing her into the water. Ryuko stops in the sewer where Akiru was already. The awakened Ryuko was in Akiru's office. He saved her, but left her without clothes. Because of this, she is angry. Akiru stops her with needles and takes some of her blood. He wants to show that Ryuko's form wakes up only when she dabs Ryuko's blood. He unsuccessfully tries to seduce Ryuko Gradually undressing, they are interrupted by a siren for the second half of the lesson. On the tennis court, Omiko was talking to Uzu. He notices Mako being punished, but this is stopped by Ryuko, who has activated her form. After this, Omiko and her men throw balls at her. Ryuko cuts them all down. Although she won, it was not according to the rules since she was in the playing area. Ryuko didn't understand what Uzu was carrying. Mako begins to theologically introduce Ryuko. Omiko wants to play with Ryuko. She changes her monocle. Mako gives her a racket and wishes her luck. On the field of play, Ryuko was the first to serve. Omiko's forces smashed her racket. Everything counted towards her. On the second round, Omiko anticipates Ryuko's actions and sends her flying. Ryuko gives more of her blood, but the racket cannot withstand such force. Several times she made mistakes. She decides to make a racket out of her scissors. She tightens the net, and Uzu wanted to make comments, but Satsuki is not against this. She tries not to distract Ryuko too much. She makes a serve. Omiko holds it and returns it, but Ryuko hits the ball with all her strength, sending Omiko flying. Flying back, Ryuko destroys her form. Ryuko wins the match, but Uzu does not agree with her. Satsuki comes down to them and announces Ryuko's victory. She comes down to fight Ryuko. Her blow is stopped by Senketsu and he says that she has 2 minutes left, so Ryuko runs away from the fight. Satsuki will be waiting for her next time. Satsuki remembers how, as a child, she really wanted Ultra Form. At school, Akiru was teaching a history class again. Ryuko was angry at him. He ran away from her whenever she chased him. Having lost sight of Akiru, Mako flies towards Ryuko, catching her. She sees a note from Akiru on her back. In his office, he asks not to look at her with that look. He again tries to seduce Ryuko, saying that he also does not love Satsuki, and in fact, worked together with Ryuko's father. Ryuko finds out that it was he who set up the meeting with the form. He gets closer to Ryuko, and she chases him away. She also asks about the indecent outfit when waking up the form. In the laboratory, scientists were creating a 5-star Ultra Form for an experiment. The victim loses control, breaking everything in his path. They shoot him with sleeping bullets, which was not effective against the guy. Inumito eliminates him with one blow. The scientists are impressed by the power of this suit. Satsuki arrives at her estate where Kamui's uniform was kept. The butler insisted that she refuse, but she couldn't just let Ryuko go. Satsuki shares blood with her form. Sensing it, she climbs onto Satsuki. It's a noisy, quiet time in Mako's house. Mako's mother provides pajamas for Ryuko. After changing clothes, Mako's family brazenly spies on her. Mako likes Ryuko's appearance and also notices that something is wrong with Senketsu. Crossing the threshold of the school, Satsuki, who was already ready to fight, draws the attention of Ryuko. Having descended, she is reminded of the form and begins to transform. Everyone is shocked by her obscene appearance, including Ryuko, who has also transformed. Senketsu warns Ryuko about Satsuki's power and the fight begins. Just from Satsuki's swings, Ryuko was already losing blood. Satsuki throws her into the school, where they continued to fight, Satsuki having already mastered her power. Senketsu warns Ryuko about the blood shortages. Satsuki throws her back. Ryuko loses her powers. Satsuki was ready to finish off Ryuko, but their fight was interrupted by Mako, who theologically supported Ryuko's spirit. Satsuki ignores what is happening and points the blade at Ryuko. With the last of her strength, Ryuko holds back her blade. She transforms into her full Senketsu form, which looked even more obscene. At full speed, she swoops down on Satsuki, fighting her on equal terms. Throwing Satsuki back, she doubles her scissors, but Satsuki dodges her attack. Crossing swords with each other, they begin to argue. By crossing again, they create a powerful blast wave. Kneeling in front of Satsuki, Ryuko promises to defeat her plans. Satsuki becomes interested. She warns her about the danger. Senketsu is cut into pieces, but it was just Ryuko's nightmare. The siren sounds and Mako jumps up to get ready for school. Ryuko notices Sakuya erasing Senketsu. He asks for help, but his mother doesn't let her figure out the form. Mom begins to iron the uniform, and Mako pulls Ryuko in her pajamas out into the crowd of people by the hand. Senketsu relaxes and the girls walk on the students' heads. Today is a day without delay. Era brightly greets Ryuko, explaining what day it is. He reprimands her about her appearance, but Mako fearlessly explains to him that everything is fine. Ira resigns himself and sets off traps around the school. The students have 3 hours left to arrive. Ryuko makes a promise to Ira that everything will go without problems. At the first trap, the stairs turn into a slippery surface. Ryuko pulls herself and Mako up. There are still 999 traps ahead. The injured Mako Uger, who is feeling ill, crashes into Ryuko and Ryuko takes her with him. There is a loop ahead. It seems heavy. At this time, the Mankinshoku family was carrying Ryuko's uniform. They noticed how the girls were climbing, and Mako also put Ryuko in an awkward position, which made her father crash. Madoru is in a hurry to deliver the form. Because of Mako, the girls almost got hurt. A huge stone rolls towards them, which the girls climb onto out of fear. They continue to overcome obstacles, but Mako again embarrasses Ryuko, causing Madoru to crash. Chalk rushes to deliver the form. The girls have half an hour left to get there. They see one class already giving up, dejectedly taking roll call. The girls notice a school bus driving through a minefield. They decide to hijack him as planned. Mako decides to drive the bus, even with a broken arm. One of the agents reports this, and they have to shoot at the bus. The committee chairman monitored the situation. The girls get to school, they have 15 minutes left and they are happy. The strength of their friends overwhelms them. Chalk runs towards them, but Mako falls again, causing Chalk to lose consciousness. Mako catches Ryuko's form and she betrays her friends by revealing that she is the head of the Trap Development Committee. She thought of everything from the very beginning. She brings up the topic of form fusion. Ryuko does not rely on her, but Mako easily masters the fusion. Ryuko is angry at Senketsu. Mako wants to test the powers of the form, but her body is petrified. Ryuko fights back the girl. Senketsu takes off and spits out all the blood. Having won the battle, the girls rush to school. But suddenly Mako crashes into the picture of the school, and as it turns out, this entire space was Mako's trap. She did it in the background. She presses the button, and the trolley quickly went down. Ryuko wants to deal with her and find out how to stop this, but Mako jumps off the trolley with a parachute. In a desperate situation, Ryuko merges with Senketsu, and they end up at the very bottom. Even in Senketsu, Ryuko does not make it to the top, but Mako notices the cable cars for 1 stars. They quickly deal with the guards and are off with only 1 minute left. Mako comes up with a new plan, and she is interrupted by Ira, who heard everything. He expels her. With little time left, Ryuko cuts the rope. They fly into the Eikiru classroom, and as if nothing had happened, they sit down at their desks and check in. On a motorcycle, Tsumugu Kinegase arrives at the school. He begins to target Ryuko, but he is prevented by Kusanasuke Yaguruma, who is the president of horticulture. He hates the guy for already stepping on the beds. He decides to punish him by strengthening his plants. Kinegase handles all by nail guns. Yaguruma makes a strong attack, but the guy doesn't care about it. He punishes the president. A siren sounded at the school. Ryuko comes to the aid of Mako, who has been taken hostage by biology club members. She bifurcates her scissors again, destroying the club. Mako thanks her for saving her. Ryuko also learned how to make her scissors smaller. Senketsu begins to notice changes in Ryuko's body and he begins to tease her. Mako decides to have lunch, but before she can blink, stunning needles are flying at her. Kinegase emerges from the darkness. Senketsu warns Ryuko and she runs away, but one of the needles hits her. Kinegase knocks her to the ground, requiring Ryuko to undress. She considers him a pervert. She tries to merge with the form, but she fails. At the last moment, something stops Kinegase and he leaves. While away from Satsuki, Eikiru asks Kinegase not to touch Ryuko, offering to become her ally, but Kinegase is haunted by her form. Eikiru calms him down. Kinegase leaves and promises to take back the uniform. A noisy dinner begins at the Mankashoku house. Kinegase prepares his weapon. The chairmen find out Kinegase's identity and also learn about his super weapon. His target is the form of Ryuko. Nanon decides to join Kinegase. Satsuki allows her. Before school, Senketsu asks Ryuko not to wear it, but Ryuko has Satsuki's goal. The Mankanshoku family discussed what they saw outside the door. At the station, Ryuko asks Mako to go on her own. Mako supports her and leaves. Ryuko is completely ready for battle. She waits for Kinegase, who is already walking towards her. He starts shooting rockets at her, and in the smoke, Ryuko merges with Senketsu. The nails do not take her. She attacks Kinegase, but he fights her off with his supplied rocket launchers, hitting her with nails. Several clubs also join him, ready to harm Ryuko. Nanon discussed what was happening within Umida. She begins to play her orchestra, to which Ryuko fell into all the traps of Kinegase. After the explosion, Senketsu cannot stand it. Ryuko turned into her previous form, and Kinegase flies into her. He forces her to take off her clothes, but she resists. Kinegase told a story that one woman became distraught because her clothes betrayed her. Senketsu tells Ryuko to run away, and he himself protects Ryuko. Kinegase insists that the form is a traitor, but Ryuko does not think so. Mako barges in, blessing Ryuko and her form again. Mako had no friends before Ryuko. She supported Ryuko's spirit and gave her uniform, and she went to clean the toilet. Kinegase decides to finish off Ryuko, but Senketsu manages to scare him away. They are distracted by Nanon, who is already bored. Kinegase does not allow himself to be captured. He evaporates in smoke, and after the curtain he blows up the room. The chairman managed to find out the man's intentions. Ryuko comes to her senses with Senketsu already on. She accepts defeat and invites Senketsu to become stronger, calling him a friend. The form becomes embarrassed and begins to tease Ryuko. Eikiru thanks Kinegase for saving Ryuko, but it seems to him that this is not enough to pay off the debt. Ryuko is angry with Akuru. She finds out that he is one with Kinigase. She even asked Mataru to track him down. She demands an explanation. Akuru starts up again, saying that he is from the Nudist Beach organization. Ryuko thought that he was lying and left. The committee chairman received the life fibers that Satsuki ordered. The chairman discussed Satsuki's decision and the appearance of Kinigase. Uzu reminds him of his goal. He wants to do something. Satsuki was sipping tea when Uzu appeared behind her, asking him to fight with Ryuko. She remembered the time when she first met him. Then Satsuki decided to become a leader, and Uzu the leader of the gang. Then Satsuki took him to her, giving him honor will run rampant to his strength. Satsuki allows Uzu. Checking his reaction, Uzu leaves. Satsuki receives a call from her mother. At the entrance to the school, Ryuko was called. The school created a ring where absolutely everyone was. Nanon is angry with Uzu. Uzu and Ryuko will fight in the ring. Uzu decides not to hesitate. He immediately transforms into a giant robot swordsman. Ryuko also incarnates with her Senketsu. Ryuko immediately attacks the guy, her attacks passing through him. At high speed, Uzu takes out a wooden sword and throws Ryuko several times. She decides to increase her speed by asking Senketsu to do so. She runs around him, but with the help of clairvoyance, Uzu stops her. The chairman explained the principles of the Uzu form power. Uzu doesn't give Ryuko a chance. He puts his wooden swords on his fingers, spinning them at high speed, creating a barrage of blows on Ryuko. With the last of her strength, she stands up and comes up with an all-or-nothing plan. Launching an attack at Ryuko, she cuts part of her form into pieces. These parts obscure Uzu's visibility, and Ryuko finishes him off by cutting his form. Mako praises Ryuko for the fight, but Uzu does not want to give up. He is stopped with a whip. Ira is very angry with the guy. Before going to bed, Ryuko strokes Senketsu, letting him relax, both of them grateful for the fight. A wounded Uzu comes to Shiru Iori and wants to ask him. Before takeoff, Satsuki notices Uzu on his knees. She rejects him, but Uzu asks for a second chance, showing her determination. Early in the morning, Ryuko again notices an invitation to fight. She comes to the ring, where she praises Satsuki for her kindness. Uzu transforms back into his suit. Senketsu feels that he has become stronger. Ryuko obeys him and also transforms. She doesn't hesitate and again blocks Uzu's vision and attacks him, but Uzu fights her off. She notices that Uzu has her eyes sewn shut. That's when Uzu asks Iori for it. Uzu angrily goes at Ryuko. He hits her several times. Then, having lost his sight, Uzu gained omniscience. Satsuki explains that Uzu merged with his suit, and now his suit is everything. Uzu does not stop and continues to hit Ryuko. He deprives her of her weapon and throws her to the ground. Ryuko tries to pick up the scissors with threads, but the scissors still fly off. Uzu gives her no rest. He makes a strong barrage that Ryuko gets stuck in the ground. But at the moment Uzu's form overheats, Satsuki does not blame Uzu for this. Ryuko escapes from the battle, severely wounded. Uzu trains in a fully upgraded suit that Iori sewed for him. While at Satsuki's, he is encouraged by her. He refuses to have tea with Satsuki and leaves. At the Mankinshoku house, everyone starts eating dinner. Ryuko praises Tsukuyo for her cooking. Tsukuyo allows her to go to the bathroom. Already there, Ryuko confesses to Senketsu how much she enjoys spending time with the other family. But she also takes out Mataru and Barazu, who were snooping on her. Mako and Ryuko decide to have lunch, but the leader of the knife-throwing club, Jack, interferes with them. She quickly deals with him. Outside, knives fly past Mako. Another head also comes to the rescue, and the head of the tightrope walkers. Ryuko easily copes with them. Mako explains to Ryuko that all these strange clubs are created by people who want to get 3 stars for defeating Ryuko. Ryuko came up with something. She decides to create her own fighting club, right in the middle of the school. Ira is ready to refuse, but Satsuki recognizes the club. Ira immediately gives Ryuko the documents. There are so many of them that Ryuko makes Mako the head. Mako panics about the leadership. Ryuko comes to Meimu Okirahama for her 1-star form. The head of the folk dances turns on the music and starts a round dance, simultaneously beating Ryuko, but she easily defeats her, and she also fights several more heads. All this time, Mako tried to concentrate. Finally, Mako and Ryuko receive 1-star status, and in return they are given a luxurious apartment. Everyone enjoys every little detail in their new home. At the table they even cry with happiness. Before going to bed, Mako promises to be the best fight leader. The next day, Ryuko fights Aizenbo Fujiwara, and then the head of the origami club. Mako asks the committee to provide new housing. Now, the Mankinshoku and Ryuko family live in luxury, each with their own affairs. Mako makes a schedule for Ryuko. Mako brings Ryuko to a no-holds-barred fight, where Ryuko of course wins. At this time, Mako's relatives are having as much fun as they can. Every day, Ryuko fought to take her club to the top. The heads of the committee raise the issue of the club's achievements. Uzu wants to fight Ryuko again, but Satsuki decides to wait. Ryuko eats dinner alone again. Even while taking a bath, she remembers Mataru and Barazu. At night, she wants to end the success. The time has come to fight the Divine Four. Ryuko comes to Mako and announces his resignation from the club. Mako cannot believe it. Suddenly, a cabinet lands on Mako. Satsuki created her ultra form so that she would fight Ryuko so as not to lose her success. Mako is already changing clothes. The battle is watched by Akiru and the Divine Four. The fight begins and Ryuko tries to stop her friend. Mako's parents come to them. They ignore Ryuko's words and take Mako's side. Mako grabs Ryuko with chains. Satsuki despises Mako's actions. Ryuko gets out of the chains and knocks the missile away, after which she no longer resists. Mako brutally beats Ryuko. Before the final blow, Mako realizes his actions and begins to blame everyone. Mako apologizes and hits the ground with all his might. Ryuko praises her for her fight, and Mako finally stops. She destroys the fight club and allows her form to be cut. The Mankenshoku family lives in the slums again, but everyone is together and happy again. Satsuki decides to hold elections between the clubs, and Yumura realizes that Satsuki specifically used Ryuko's skills. Satsuki tells the students about the school's new system, where any student is allowed to attack others. They are given a week. Those who survive will receive Ultra Form. Iori covers the space so that it is not interfered with in making fibers. Akiru and the girls watch the chaos from the window. The Divine Four break through the crowd, discussing Satsuki's strange intentions. Ira and Nanon are suspended for a week. There was still chaos in the city, but Mako slacked off at home, volunteering to drink tea with his family. Ryuko asks Barazu for his scooter. About to leave, Mako joins Ryuko without letting her go. On the way, Mako says that she doesn't care about these fights, so for her it's like a vacation. Ryuko arrives at her burnt house. Mako immediately begins to make guesses. Although it was a mansion, Ryuko lived uncivilized and aggressively. She also talks about the death of her father, who was killed by the same half of the scissors. Then the house burned down. Ryuko merges with the form and breaks through the ground. Ryuko and the sleeping Mako go back. She and Senketsu still haven't figured out anything. Suddenly the scooter stops. Mako apologizes for the broken transport while driving him along. She supports Ryuko and says how much she and her family appreciate her. Mako decides to hitchhike. A Cadillac drives past them and smokes them. Ira returns and apologizes for the trouble. He also says that he will not fight and will even help the girls. They were already on their way, and Mako begins to pester Ira. A car begins to overtake them, from which they started shooting at Ira's car. It was a car airsoft club that was after Ira uniforms. Ryusuke Todoroki encourages others to surround Ira. Ira begins to show his skills on the car, but this leads to a collision. Ira's car was surrounded, and then Ira came to the girls' defense. They start shooting at him, and he immediately transforms into his form. Accepting the pain, he felt pleasure. Suddenly he remembers his youth, how he tried to protect one student who was manipulated by bullies at the expense of his parents. Due to the status of Hojo and Imagawa's parents, Ira could only watch as the student jumped from the roof, but was then saved by Satsuki, who fired the bully's parents, which is how Ira met her. Ryuko and Mako suspect him. He is harassed by the club, and then Ira releases the power of his uniform, impressing the girls. Ira takes the girls to a gas station and leaves, promising Ryuko that their fight will be the best. 7 days pass. Satsuki congratulates those who survived, and now she says that those who win now will become 3-star. Columns come out of the ground. Those who stand on them win. Ryuko immediately breaks through and climbs one of them. The Heavenly Four want to fight her. Another pillar emerges from the ground as the battle turns into King of the Hill. Satsuki promises Ryuko that he will tell her about her father if she wins. Ira steps forward to the main column, calling for Ryuko. She transforms and the game begins. Satsuki distributes the turn between each of the Heavenly Four. The first will be Ira. Ryuko is anxiously waiting for him, but he is inactive. He says that he will fight at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He is strict about the rules. The sirens announce Ryuko's fight all over the city. Barazu and Mataru can't wait. Mataru brings the stolen TV that didn't work. The father curses and runs to buy the TV. While there is time, Mako and Ryuko are having lunch, discussing the fight. Akiru comes to them, who gives an immobilizing injection to Mako. He would like to warn Ryuko, but she refused. He returns Mako to consciousness and he leaves. Ryuko really likes her mother's dinner. It's already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Satsuki brings Ira and Ryuko down. In the ring, they both transform. Ryuko approaches the immobilized Ira, who asks to attack him, but she knows the trick of his form. Ira knew that this would happen, so he proceeds to beat himself. With the accumulated strength, he releases his bonds and hits Ryuko. She gets to her feet with 2 scissors, cutting Ira, but he just pouted. Ira gives advice to Ryuko, which doesn't help her. The whole city gathered at the Mankinshoku house. They watched as Ryuko was defeated, but it seems that Mom was only worried about her lunch. Ira gives his all. Nanon and Inumita notice this and praise the guy. Satsuki remembers the time when she started the fight with Ira. Then he put iron fibers on himself, knowing that he would lose to Satsuki. He said that he would absorb all the pain for everyone. Satsuki liked his determination. She knocked the guy down, but he grabbed her sheath so as not to fall to his knees. Satsuki brings Ira to her senses and offers to go with her to the world she will change. Then Ira followed her. Ryuko fights off Ira's fetters. He tries to put pressure on her, which confused her. Ira delivers a serious blow and throws Ryuko out of the ring. She is saved by Senketsu and she returns. She starts hitting Ira recklessly. Everyone notices this and gets worried. Ira releases the bonds. Ryuko fights them off with whirlwind movements. He tells how great his discipline rules are. He goes wild because of disobedience and bites the gag. His ultra form gains new powers and he snatches Ryuko's sword. Having deprived her of fighting, he decides to reforge Ryuko into a model student. He, with all his strength, compresses Ryuko into the form to change. Senketsu gets an idea on how to get out. Ryuko emerges from the merger, thereby escaping Ira's grasp. He hits her in the stomach, flying back, and she grabs the bonds with her teeth. Ira brings Ryuko back to him, suffocating her inside his form. It seems to everyone that everything is over, but only Uzu and Satsuki notice something. Ryuko cuts Ira from the inside, transforming her form into blades. He tries to defend himself, but it is too late. Ryuko cuts his form and wins. Akiru is impressed. Out of shame, Ira decides to commit harakiri, but Satsuki herself stops him. Ryuko has a new opponent in Yumida. Yumida Hauka easily hacks the Revox website to cause his sales to plummet, but the defense quickly finds him. Trying to escape from everyone, he runs into security and Satsuki. The girl praises the guy for hacking the most secure site, then she invited Yumida to join her. More and more people gather around the Barazu TV. The loser Ira sits down with Mako, and they each root for their own. Nanon begins to doubt Satsuki. Satsuki declares the fight has begun. Yumida immediately transforms into a scout suit. He calculates every corner of Ryuko. She also transformed. Yumida calculated her every move, but still comes under attack. In strange poses, he was calculating something, until Ryuko began to attack him, running around him. At the last moment, Yumida disappears. Mako and Ira start arguing. Yumida has just hidden himself in camouflage and begins to hit Ryuko, putting her in front of a cliff. Ryuko decides on a crazy plan. Senketsu enlarges his eye to the entire arena. Yumida's suit malfunctions and he is attacked. Nanon mocks Yumida. Ryuko is already standing in front of Yumida, who could no longer do anything. Ryuko splits the scissors and then Yumida gives up. Having collected the data, he does not want to lose it, and he leaves. Ryuko's next opponent will be Nanon. Akiru is surprised by Ryuko's powers. Barazu and Mataru have to pay for electricity. Yumida joins Mako and Ira. He and Ira begin to argue intensely about their loss. Squeezing Mako, she begins to root for herself. Ryuko relaxes at the sight of her. Nanon starts playing the opening march, promising Ryuko that the fight will be fun. Nanon merges with her form, collecting all the other instruments. She transforms into a large instrument. Ryuko transforms as well and attacks her, but Nanon knocks her out with a sound wave. Following Ryuko, sharp notes begin to fly, then Nanon creates the highest possible sound. Nanon is preparing something. Flying up, she makes eye contact with Satsuki. Then, as children, they competed in the size of the castle, and Satsuki built an entire skyscraper, surprising Nanon and promising to be with her always. From above, Nanon releases even more notes, creating its own rules. Nanon's next attack is a huge missile aimed at Ryuko. She withstands this attack and begins to tie threads around the Nanon ship, clinging to the ground. The ship is quickly pulled down. Having lost control of the steering, Nanon tries to cut Ryuko's threads. She fails and decides to tear apart the entire arena. With explosions and sharp notes, the arena collapses and Ryuko falls. Akiru calls Kinegase, telling him about Ryuko's form progress. Nanon fires another stream of missiles. Ryuko flies out of the smoke, transforming into her flying form. Akiru informs Kinegase of the worst-case scenarios. Kinegase goes to the call. The fight between Ryuko and Nanon will now be in heaven. Nanon is angry. The Nanon March was playing in all the loudspeakers of the city. The battle was still broadcast on TV. Nui Harim also came to watch the battle. The battle was still raining in the air. Ryuko was desperately trying to cut the ship. Ira watched very tensely and angrily. While flying around, Ryuko changes plans and flies straight at Satsuki, but is protected by Nanon. Nanon begins firing a volley of missiles, one of which Ryuko takes and throws at her. The Nanon ship is destroyed. Mako is still in a tense situation. Ryuko hits Nanon mercilessly. By that time, Kinegase had already arrived in the city. Senketsu notices that they didn't destroy the form. Suddenly everyone starts calling Nanon for an encore. Nanon changes the powers of his form. Nanon attacks with a wildly loud wave, from which Ryuko begins to weaken. Uzu, still on his wave, hits Nanon. Ryuko gets up and decides to do something. Nanon hits Ryuko with a high-pitched sound again, but she stops him. Inumida explains that Ryuko resonates at its lowest pitch. Ryuko suppresses the sound and reflects it on Nanon. The two sound waves collide. Ryuko's wave hits Nanon, it splits the scissors into two, and destroys Nanon's form. Harem meets Ryuko on TV. Iori and Satsuki get to work. Kinegase comes to Akira, making fun of his appearance. He gives him the bullet against Ryuko as a last resort. Akira says how strong Ryuko is. Mako rejoices at the victory, and an irritated Nanon joins them. Uzu enters the arena and transforms into an improved form of a sword robot. Ryuko transforms too, but before they can cross their blades, Harem appears between them. Satsuki is very afraid of her. The Mankenshoku family is running out of time again. They have no money left, and they decide to go to the arena themselves. Ryuko Kiryuin decides to take action. She apologizes for being late to Rei Hawamaru, who reveals that their couturier Harem has run away, but Ryuko already has other plans. Harem imitates Satsuki. Her actions surprise the Heavenly Four. Uzu decides to stop her, but Harem stops his attack with an umbrella. With just one flick of her finger, she destroys Uzu's form and throws him out of the arena. Mako and Nanon start arguing. Iori is confused. The thread of fate, which is the latest and strongest, was destroyed with one finger. Uzu manages to catch the sword. Kinegase tells Akira who this couturier Harem is and who sent her here. Satsuki gives this fight to Ryuko. She approaches her, but Harem is already behind her and begins to bother Ryuko. She decides to show something amazing, namely the very second half of the scissors. Harem confesses that she is the killer of Ryuko's father. Ryuko gets very angry. Ryuko attacks Harem. She hatefully attacks her and remembers his father. Harem says that she killed Ryuko's father because of his research. At the moment she strokes Senketsu, from one touch he feels very bad. Harem wants to have fun. These words anger Ryuko. Senketsu asks her not to be angry because of the flow of blood. Still, Harem pulls the life thread, but Senketsu endures through the acute pain. Harem remembers meeting Isshin Matoi when she snuck into his laboratory with the intention of killing Isshin. A battle began where Harem resisted Isshin with her ribbon and received in response. Throwing him into the wall, Isshin took out a pair of scissors and waved them around without response. They both fly off a little. Harem takes the scissors from Isshin and rips a hole in his stomach. She was distracted by Ryuko, and then Isshin deprived her of her eye, after which he did not expect mercy from Harem. Ryuko, because of the memories, becomes even more angry, her raging blood overflowing Senketsu. Ryuko loses her mind and is devoured by Senketsu. Now they are one. Satsuki panics and she decides to intervene. The Heavenly Four and Mako watched what was happening. Inumida reports that Ryuko may die from loss of blood. Mako becomes afraid for her friend. She runs after her father. Uzu comes to the others. Through a sniper, Akira forces Kinegase to apprehend Ryuko. The Heavenly Four with Satsuki descend. Satsuki transforms. Running Mako is met by her family. They all immediately go to Ryuko. Ryuko is still rowdy. Kinegase enters the fight, starting to shoot at both at once. He nearly meets Ryuko's scissors, gets noticed by Harem, and is now being stalked by her. Inside the school, she stumbles upon his trap. Akira takes aim at Ryuko and is about to shoot, but the moment she scares him, he loses sight of her. Kinegase activates another trap and pillars fall on Ryuko. Satsuki appears. With the desire to return Ryuko, she does not let Harem near. The fight between Ryuko and Satsuki begins. Their battle blows the school apart. Both girls want to give each other the final blow. While they attack, Mako rushes towards them in a car. Having already created a shockwave, Mako breaks through it and clings to Ryuko. Satsuki stops both himself and Harem. They watch as Mako wants to calm her friend down, as she did then. She succeeds. Ryuko returns to her previous form, and Mako throws her to the ground, causing her to lose consciousness. Satsuki thanks Mako for saving Ryuko. Akira is calm. Without even shooting at Ryuko, a tired Kinegase comes to him and shares his feelings. Satsuki gives a ban to Harem. Now she is not allowed to enter here. There is a meeting outside Hanoji School. The Heavenly Four will lead each rabble. Uzu gathers everyone on an excursion to Osaka. Nanon in Kyoto, Ira in Kobe, and the Inumida Computer Club will manage all connections in these cities. Iori has already created ultra forms for everyone except the Celestial Four. Satsuki allocates time for the day after tomorrow. By now everyone was getting ready. Mako was sitting sadly. Akira sat down next to her and listened to her tears. Akira begins to worry about Ryuko, who is not in the best condition right now. Suddenly, Shinjiro Najida appears, who came for Mako, but the guards ran after him. He had to run to Ryuko along with Mako. Tsukuyo brings the depressed Ryuko her signature cutlets and leaves her. Ryuko talks to Senketsu, but their conversation is stopped by Shinjiro. Mako brings him to Ryuko, and Shinjiro tries to force Ryuko to put on the Senketsu. He begins to annoy Ryuko and she kicks him out. Ryuko is finally left alone. In the main building of Revox, Raju appears brightly, reminding the company's goal. She also gives her word to Satsuki, who is not against her plan. In the office, Raju praised her form. She also showed Ryuko's last fight. Satsuki asks not to interfere with her travel plan. Raju promises not to interfere. And now Satsuki is already in the helicopter, promising the best fight in the name of Kiryuin. Harime and Raju discuss Satsuki, Akira and Kinage's contact about a decisive battle. Kinage will be afraid to fight with Harime, and Akira tries to find out who Shinjiro is. Already at school, Shinjiro finds Mako and again worries about Ryuko. He does not want to wait. He takes out newspapers and begins to scream about his displeasure. Mako handed out newspapers in fear. They are attacked by the heads of the committee, but the beaten Shinjiro escapes into the water, and Mako meets Ira. He assigns her work as punishment. Ryuko apologizes to Senketsu, who asks her not to reject him. Their conversation is again interrupted by Shinjiro, who broke into the house with the heads of the committee. Barazu comes across, and Shinjiro escapes again. Finally, Ryuko overcomes his fear and puts on the Senketsu. She saves Shinjiro by cutting the shapes of the heads, but the heads turn out to be dolls. Shinjiro reveals himself and it was Harime all along. Information about Shinjiro disappears. Akira panics. Harime waited for Ryuko to merge with the form. Ryuko begins to angrily attack her, but Harime defended herself with her scissors. Harime becomes fed up with Ryuko and she proceeds to destroy Senketsu. Harime almost finishes off Ryuko, but an angry Satsuki appears behind her. She stops Harime and mocks the loser Ryuko. Satsuki takes the remains of the Senketsu to Iori, who will help sheath it. Satsuki finally tells all the students about the decisive battle. Everyone is distributed into trucks, Mako too. Akira runs to the defeated Ryuko, and he notices how Satsuki began to act. Ryuko has a nightmare and wakes up in Akira's office. She was outraged for her appearance, but Akira simply saved her. After some time, a piece of Senketsu stops the evil Ryuko. Ryuko finds out that the remaining rests of Senketsu are in Osaka, and she immediately goes there on a motorcycle. Nataru approaches Akira, who left the teacher. He will finally act as a member of Nude Beach. He calls his car and leaves. Iori tells Satsuki that he has embedded Senketsu fibers into the students' forms. Ira, Uzu, and Nanon have already arrived at their places. The information committee also begins to act. Kyuji Obayashi and Kenta Sakuramiya do not allow Ira's squad to pass. They begin to throw Molotov cocktails at them. Soon the American School of American Football comes to their aid. Ira finally stands against them. The Americans advance on the Ira squad, but the squad fires notepads at them. The Ira squad wins with their pride. Nanon and her squad are advancing into Abekamo Academy. Their members were very strange. They created illusions for protection. Nanon does not believe the students' stories. She orders the squad to calm down. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a hologram of Inumida appears, which breaks through the space of illusions with a ring. He speaks in a language incomprehensible to Nanon. Soon, the academy members graduate their students. Inumida disappears, and Nanon blows away his opponents with his tools. The impolite Takarada Kanio meets the Uzu squad. He begins to explain Osaka's rule and that she is ruled by money. Nanova Kinman's students begin to shoot money at the Uzu squad. It turns out that this is Takarada's own money. He begins to taunt the city of Uzu. Soon the ping pong club began to protect the flying money, and the sumo club knocked down enemies with one stomp. Then several more clubs begin to throw them. Uzu announces an assault. There is a buzz in the city. Tired at work, Mako notices Osaka's branded takoyaki in front of her, but she had no money. She notices one of the enemy's students. She forces him to shoot at her. She skillfully takes all the money and runs to buy all of Osaka's food. Era wants to finish off Kobe, but a Russian tank comes to the aid of the Japanese, which is protected with meat from rules of Hanoji. A shell is fired from the tank. A special artillery committee deflects the shell. The tank explodes and Ira wins. Suddenly, from behind the fire, Ryuko flies out on a motorcycle and takes the remaining Senketsu from the Hanoji students. The Nanon squad is gradually destroying someone else's academy, but her squad is also attacked by Ryuko, who instantly takes the remains of Senketsu. Uzu proclaims his victory to the academy, but Takarada is already standing in front of him, who lures civilians with his money. Now the civilians are fighting with Uzu. A walking Mako is knocked down by a blast wave. Uzu condemns Takarada's actions, which gets on his nerves. Suddenly a helicopter flies over them, from which Satsuki descends. Mako lands in front of the warring Hanoji students. They want to punish her for her betrayal, but Ryuko drives across their faces. She meets with Mako and she notices the finely chopped Senketsu, the last shred remaining. Senketsu praises Ryuko for her independence and for her strength alone. The last piece on Satsuki, Ryuko. No matter who has it, even without full Senketsu, Ryuko is ready to fight Satsuki. Kinagase arrives in a devastated Osaka, and Akira arrives at Nude Beach headquarters. Satsuki and Takarada confront each other again. Takarada remembers that he knows her. He starts an argument about who will be the best ruler. He again proves the principles of Osaka. With money he forces people to fight, but Satsuki scares them and scares Takarada. He accepts plan B. By pressing the button he turns into a cyborg. Uzu annoys Takarada and orders the clubs to attack him, but with one swing from Takarada they fly away. He begins the bombardment on Satsuki. Already anticipating victory, Satsuki protects Ira in his new Ultra form and is joined by the rest of the Celestial Four in their new Ultra forms. Iori drops Uzu's new form and he immediately catches it. Uzu transforms into an improved swordsman form and gets fired up again. Nanon and Inumita make fun of him. Takarada bombs again, but Uzu stops the missiles. Crab paste is poured onto Uzu's attacker, which has begun to solidify. Takarada begins to melt the paste, anticipating victory. Uzu breaks out of the shell and begins to throw a lunge. Uzu makes the final blow and defeats Takarada. Satsuki despises the loser, Ryuko, who came for Satsuki, comes out of the smoke. Satsuki taunts Ryuko without her powers. Uzu drags Takarada away and the fight begins. Crossing swords, Satsuki transforms into an improved form, and Yumita figuring out her new powers. Satsuki is already preparing to throw Ryuko off the cliff, but Kinagase, who has come to save Ryuko, runs out behind her. The Nude Beach group and their leader Akiru are also in a hurry to help. Akiru is already running towards Kinagase and Ryuko. The Heavenly Four want to fight all together. After their contempt, they transform into their improved forms. The Nude Beach group and the Heavenly Four begin the battle. Concerned, Mako resorts to Ryuko, who decides to take extreme measures to give her skin in exchange for Senketsu's transformation. She persuades him and transforms. After deflecting Satsuki's sword, Ryuko manages to retrieve her glove. Now they are fighting evenly. Mako tries to interfere. While they fight, Ryuko tries to understand Satsuki's cruel plan to destroy Osaka. Ryuko loses the scissors, but she uses the blade form, which doesn't really help. She starts running using the flight form. Satsuki jumps onto the flying Nanon. Satsuki stops Ryuko's flight, but she clings to the tower. Nanon tries to burn through the tower, but Ryuko attacks them from above. Satsuki grabs the tower with a cable, throwing Ryuko into it. Inumita stops Kinagase and Uzu stops Akiru. Senketsu cushions Ryuko's landing. Mako prepares to throw the scissors, but Ira stops her from doing so. Ryuko is already on her feet and sees Satsuki in front of her. Ryuko creates claws from Senketsu, which she uses to stop Satsuki's sword. Senketsu explodes Ryuko's blood to blind Satsuki. Taking advantage of the moment, she hits her and takes her katana. But Satsuki doesn't give in. They keep their blades neck to neck. Stubborn conversations flare up between them, in which Ryuko wins. Satsuki is ready to leave, leaving her sword with Ryuko, but Ryuko gives the sword back and praises her pride. It seems that everything is over, but this feeling is interrupted by Nanon, who destroys the Nude Beach base. Satsuki's plan is carried out. She leaves Ryuko, saying that this will not happen a second time. On the ship, Satsuki becomes ill. Iori calms her form. Satsuki has sharpened her form and Soroi begins to take care of it. Suddenly the pilot speaks in a female voice. Haram was sitting overboard, who headed her way to the castle. Akiru wants to tell the secrets of Senketsu. Mako sees his teacher in this form for the first time. Ryuko thinks that it is better for her to leave, but Mako does not want to leave her friend. She very quickly joins Akiru and jumps into the water with them. Meanwhile, at the bathhouse, Raju purifies Satsuki's spirit. Our group emerges from the sewer, leads Akiru to the Nude Beach underground base, and is met by the surviving members. Ryuko notices Akiru's wealth. He begins to tell that her father is the creator of their group. Mako has already thought of all sorts of things about him. Akiru gives a lecture about clothes. He talks about the history of its reconstruction. Mako begins to annoy everyone. Akiru shuts her up for the entire conversation. Raju leads Satsuki to a secret room, leads to the source of everything. A large ball of thread that resembled a core was a real living fiber. Raju created clothes using threads. Akiru gets excited when talking about clothes. Senketsu begins to agree with his words. Akiru says that living fibers are cosmic organisms that descended to Earth and chose people for their plan. Kinagase notices that people are living food for them. Senketsu begins to panic and get confused. Akiru began to talk more and more nonsense. In the end, he calms down Ryuko and asks her to tell Senketsu that the world needs them. Eikiru reveals that Ryuko's father created Senketsu specifically to destroy Kiryuin against their plans. Senketsu is convinced by his words. He begins to remember his birth, remembering the day when Isshin protected him. Kinegase is still on the side of eliminating Ryuko. Eikiru also says that the clothes created by Raju also have living fibers, but no one knows when they will awaken. If this comes true, then humanity will be over. Hawamaru reports that the Ragio Stadium is completed. It's time to move on to a new phase of the plan. Raju is about to leave. Satsuki wants to stay at the castle for the night. Ragio hands over his butler to her. Satsuki's mother leaves, pitting all her hopes on her. Mako slept throughout the conversation. Ryuko suddenly started up. She didn't want to act on Eikiru's words and begins to defend Senketsu. She even took it off to show that he shouldn't fight. Kinegase angrily warns her not to do that, because Senketsu will feel priceless, but even at gunpoint nothing stops her. A harsh atmosphere begins. Honorable Satsuki arrives at school and is greeted by the Celestial Four. She looks down on everyone, saying that Raju will arrive at the school, a sports festival will begin at the school, the stadium will open. Ryuko still bravely confronts Kinegase, but Mako friendly forces Ryuko to put on Senketsu. Kinegase spares Ryuko from this. Ryuko starts a heart-to-heart conversation with Senketsu. She notices Kinegase training. Eikiru begins to talk about his sister, who worked with Ryuko's father and who died in the test on Senketsu. Eikiru asks Ryuko not to die. Satsuki, sipping Sora tea, began to remember her childhood and her first encounter with her form. Era manages the students. He must put them in their place. When Raju arrives, all small rudeness will not be tolerated. The Mankinshoku family comes to Ira's pedestal. Barazu wants to know where Mako and Ryuko went. Ira is confused by such rudeness, but he reports that their girls are traitors. But tomorrow there will be a sports festival where the girls and their family must participate, so he makes an allowance. Eikiru shows Ryuko a hidden recording where Ryuko first learns about Raju. Kinegase notices that the Revoks are starting to act. The Hanoji school was an experimental school under Kiryuin's rule where she tested her living fibers. At a sports festival, she wants to do something crazy by bringing living fibers to life on the students. Ryuko shouldn't let her do this. Nude Beach is supporting her. Hawamaru informs Raju about the dissatisfaction with their clothing from other companies, but Raju does not appear. She is focused on the plan. Haram also thinks. She tells how much she likes Ryuko. Raju leaves showing his arrogance. Eikiru provides Kinegase with a glove and knives that can cut the threads of life. Ryuko is about to leave, leaving Mako, but she is definitely not going to stay. She climbs in with Ryuko and gives up. Uzu prepares his troops. Nanon sets up the appropriate atmosphere. Iori rushes to create forms. Everyone is busy with the festival. Inumita calculates the location of Nude Beach from a satellite. Satsuki gathers everyone to announce that everything is ready. They drink to their success. The day of Raju's visit comes. Satsuki tells everyone to receive her even better, but the Mankinshoku family doesn't care much about this. They are passionate about food. Finally, Raju appears brightly. She blinds everyone with her beauty. The Heavenly Four meet her. She interprets her speech by theologizing clothing. The time comes. Raju activates the living fibers, and all people are captured by the fibers. Just then, Ryuko and the others arrive, and Eikiru takes off with them. They appear in front of Raju. She meets with Ryuko and again talks about clothes until she is impaled by Satsuki, who disagrees with her opinion. The Heavenly Four and Satsuki were ready for this. Satsuki reveals that all this time she has been teaching students to resist against Raju. Hawamaru wants to help Raju, but her powers are stopped by Ira and his charges. Ira transforms into his form. Inumita deactivates all forms of the schoolchildren. Mankinshoku continue to eat again. All the students are back in line. Haram starts to walk, but she is stopped by Uzu, who transforms. Ryuko is surprised by the antics of Satsuki, who at that time was arguing with her mother. She tries to escape from the crucifix, but she only manages to heal her wound. Satsuki asks everyone to take off their Revok's clothes. Uzu and Haram fight again, where Uzu begins to fight back against her. Inumita and Ira enter the battle, then Nanon's sound wave. Haram begins to get annoyed. Mako finally meets her parents. They begin to eat gifts, but their meal is interrupted by Ira, who instructs Mako to lead people out of the school. She lures them with food. Satsuki admits her real goal. As a child, her father told everything about her mother, who in turn experimented on her second daughter involving living fibers. Raju mocks Satsuki's plan, but Iori and the others go underground, where they stop the fiber core. That night, Satsuki eliminated everyone for that day. Satsuki prepares to finish off his mother, but Hawamaru manages to free her. Now Raju attacks. With her fibers she receives the minds of others, creating her own army. While the students were attacking, Satsuki transforms. Ryuko is also attacked and is protected by Eikiru. Satsuki eliminates most of the students. Raju takes over Ryuko's mind, forcing her to fight Satsuki. Harem gets tired of fighting Uzu, she creates copies of herself and leaves. Meanwhile, Ryuko deprives herself and Satsuki of their weapons and is about to hit her, but she ends up hitting herself and breaks the thread of reason from the inside. She moves away from Satsuki and is about to attack when Harem appears in front of her. Ryuko distributes his enemies and transforms. She overcomes Harem's speed and eliminates her clones. With the next attack, Senketsu feels that they really merge together. She hits Harem with scissors so hard that she even got scared. Satsuki attacks Raju and cuts off her head. The Corps begins to go on a rampage. Iori and his people are in for a hard time. Soroi begins to take on everyone and run. Satsuki notices something in the sky. Her mother puts her head back together with threads. It causes her severe pain. She blows it up and defeats her. The sky is shrouded in threads and clothes. Raju changes into Satsuki's uniform and throws her with all her strength into the wall. She decides to transform. Now she appears behind Ryuko and takes out her heart. She notices that her heart is shrouded in threads. Raju meets his failed daughter. The covers of clothing come down and attract people. The clothes come to life, destroying everyone. Ira and Uzu try to help them. Mako quickly tries to get everyone out, but she is shocked when she finds out that Ryuko is Raju's daughter. Her clothes are dragging her away. No one could save her. Ryuko regains her heart by furiously trying to destroy Raju, but Harem comes to her aid. Satsuki doesn't give up. She squeezes the button and creates a huge explosion. The Veils descend on the city. Madoru is in a hurry to get food and accidentally meets the Veils. Nanon comes to the rescue in an unusual form. She takes off with Madoru. She is surprised by the poor life. Uzu evacuates the students from the mat and covers. He still has to transform, but he receives heavy damage and cannot stand it. His previous gang comes to his aid. They want to remove the clothes from the inside and give themselves to her. Uzu escapes, but his gang dies. Nanon leads the others to the nude beach base and introduces Madoru to the Heavenly Four. Ira sets the right example for Nanon. Inumita finds out the subsequent deaths, also talks about the loss of Uzu's ultra form, and the weapons forged from Satsuki's sword. Hopes remain for Iori. Eikiru talks about the covers in more detail. He also thanks Soroi for his work. He treats everyone to tea. Ryuko is in the room. Senketsu is very worried about her. Tsukuyo calms him down. Eikiru bursts into the room and is interested in Ryuko's condition. He understands how Senketsu felt after the explosion. Now Satsuki is imprisoned in a cage. Her mother continues to despise her and mock her. Satsuki still wonders how Ryuko could be her sister, but Raju reveals that her real husband faked death from an explosion, changed his name and appearance, and raised Ryuko that way. Satsuki begins to get angry at her bluntness. Harem is doing her job as a couturier. She can't wait to recreate her new masterpiece. She has captured the minds of everyone from the Iori sewing circle, and now they are all creating a huge kamui. Nude Beach prepares to leave while waiting for Iori with his recreation. Eric gives Bakuden Satsuki to Uzu. Iori arrives with his new apparatus. Everyone leaves the headquarters. A lot of covers have gathered outside. Ira begins to use the device and sucks Mako out of her cover. Ira is proud of the sucking weapon, but also begins to feel shy about Mako. Suddenly the covers take the shape of a harp and create an annoying sound, so annoying that it causes Ryuko to wake up. She cuts the covers with one blow, freeing people from there. Senketsu was already happy to see Ryuko, but she seems to have changed in character. Mako again tries to calm Ryuko down with her performance, but Ryuko is not in the right mood yet. She is met by Harem, who has created herself from scraps. She cuts the flaps from which Raju emerges, which begins to get on Ryuko's nerves. She ignores all of her negativity and simply chops her down. Ryuko really wants to kill her mother. Raju invites her to Hanoji school, where she doesn't mind fighting. Eikiru wants to prevent Ryuko's anger, but she loses her temper. Ryuko confesses her true feelings, which disappoints Senketsu. Ryuko goes far away. Having lost Ryuko, Nude Beach tries to figure out what to do next. Senketsu is sad again and is supported by Mako, who understands his feelings. Inumita hacks the cameras. The entire Heavenly Four have to see the exhausted Satsuki. The volume is turned up on the terrifying picture. Everyone notices how Satsuki sharpens her claws. Hopes arise and everyone learns about the presence of the enemy. Eikiru is excited by the victory and in this case activates his creation, the large ship that was the base of Nude Beach, the Naked Sun. Mako meets his family on deck and they agree to participate in the war. Takarada says goodbye to Nude Beach. A sphere lands on Hanoji School, from which an angry Ryuko emerges, having come for the heads of Harem and Raju. Harem rejoices at her appearance. Ryuko runs over her on a motorcycle. The first battle begins with Harem. Raju watches the battle. A missile flies from her back from which she dodged. The others were in the combat helicopter. Kinagase is trying with all his might to blow up Raju. Inumita and Eikiru are also riding in the Naked Sun. Satsuki senses the appearance of his own. She finally gets out and breaks into the school. During the battle, Harem begins to affect Ryuko's feelings, at which point she even asked her to trust her, which made Ryuko very angry. She manages to stab Harem, but it was all in vain. Harem shows her heart and talks about her birth and says that she is Ryuko's spiritual sister. Suddenly Kamui Satsuki takes off in the sky. Ryuko began to take off. Her movements were controlled by Ryuuga, who wanted to put Kamui on Ryuko. Satsuki felt trouble. She goes out onto the roof and the Celestial Four jumps out of the helicopter. Ryuuga manages to put Kamui on Ryuko, who saw fake memories in her last moments. Satsuki is boarded the ship. Feeling free, suddenly Numita sees the approach of an unidentified person. Ryuko attacks the ship and destroys all of Nude Beach's guns. Kinigase had a spare DTR Akuru. It merges with him and he runs towards Ryuko. Uzu and Nanon give the remaining Bakuden to Satsuki. Kinigase desperately tries to shoot and overpower Ryuko, but she defeats him in one fell swoop. She meets Satsuki, who has donned Senketsu in order to calm Ryuko. Ryuko merges into Kamui the Immaculate. Ryuuga and Harem's hopes rise. Harem still asks for her father's revenge, but Ryuko just kisses her and leaves. An argument begins between the sisters, and eventually Satsuki merges with Senketsu. The Heavenly Four want to intervene in the fight, but they are stopped by Mako with a message for them. The fight begins. Ryuko taunts the fragments of the Bakuzen sword. Satsuki is unable to cope with Ryuko, but she overcomes herself and uses the same techniques that Ryuko did. Harem was already finishing with the Ultra form. Senketsu again tries to calm Ryuko down, but she only insults him and begins to praise Kamui the Immaculate more. Now Ryuko looks down on everyone. Ryuko continues the fight. Senketsu overcomes the peaks of his abilities, but his forms are destroyed by Ryuko. Satsuki loses and she is brutally beaten by Ryuko. Senketsu tries to stop Ryuko again, but she despises both of them. At the last moment, Nanon distracts Ryuko with a barrage of missiles, which Ryuko easily cuts through. Uzu enters the fight and lures Ryuko to a huge howitzer, which Numita fires off. Ryuko survives the explosion, but Ira appears from behind her, holding Ryuko with a sucking device. The Heavenly Four and Satsuki manage to stop her. Akuru is surprised that Satsuki herself offered to be bait. Suddenly Ira's device jams. Harem jumps from a height and destroys the device. Kinigase comes out of hiding, but it was stupid. Harem warns that Kamui the Immaculate is hardwired into Ryuko and that she will die if the Immaculate is destroyed. Mako goes to the battlefield. Haomaru reports that their company has grown all over the world. With this, Ryuuga rejoices and praises everyone, but also betrays his people by sending them into the Veils. The Veils move towards Ryuuga, who watches the birth of the Fiber Core. The Veils combine with the core and take away the rest of Ryuuga's people. The fibers took their shape and flew up. Ryuko breaks Senketsu. She is stopped in time by Mako. With the last of her strength she makes a performance, which again fails. Harem decides to eliminate the interference. Senketsu saves Mako and puts on her. Harem eliminates Kinigase. Satsuki takes on Harem. The girls begin to argue. The Heavenly Four attacks again. Harem forces Ryuko to fight further. The Mankenshoku family gets in her way. Mako makes herself annoying. Satsuki runs into Ryuko and makes a small wound. Senketsu climbs inside Ryuko along with Mako. Ryuko's feelings are mixed together with Senketsu and Mako. Ryuko manages to dispel the fake feelings. Harem again prepares for her next attack until Ryuko's scissors fly into her back. Ryuko fights for her true self, taking down Kamui the Immaculate through her pain. She manages to break Kamui. Harem uses the other half of the scissors. Senketsu flies towards Ryuko, and Harem tries to stop him, but Senketsu pulls himself off and gets on top of Ryuko. Ryuko starts praising Senketsu again, so much so that he starts crying. Harem and Ryuko cross scissors. They find out who is right. Harem takes away both sides of the scissors. Mako gets into the conversation and quickly leaves him. Harem swoops in with the full head scissors, but Ryuko manages to fight her off and get a full head scissors. Harem decides to manipulate the others. Harem's threads are cut. Ryuko cuts off Harem's hands, but Haomaru flies to her rescue and takes her away. Numita unsuccessfully shoots at the helicopter. Ryuko tries to catch up with the helicopter, but Senketsu holds her back. The Heavenly Four and Nude Beach begin to save people. Satsuki sees that her teachers have also been captured. Satsuki directs the Mankenshoku family to treat the wounded and the sewing club to collect the remaining living fibers. Harem demands that she be returned to the battlefield, even without her arms. But Haomaru explains that Harem needs to commit Shinrikokutsu. Harem promises to finish it and take revenge for the explanation. Satsuki asks to keep the chopped Kamui in chains. Ryuko doubts that Satsuki can fight alongside her, so she decides to hit her, but Ira takes the full blow and Uzu takes the second blow. The Heavenly Four declare that weak blows are not worthy of Satsuki. They begin to praise her even more, and then Ryuko realizes that her sister is also protected by such people. Satsuki apologizes for the past and invites Ryuko to fight together. The sisters make up and Tsukuyo begins to celebrate. Everyone enjoys Tsukuyo's signature food. Soroi once again pours his tea for everyone. Senketsu decides to have an evening conversation with Ryuko. They are having fun and Ryuko calls Raju. She can't wait to fight. Harem sewed a great cover with her teeth. Iori sharpens Kamui. Satsuki offers to rescue it despite its danger. After collecting a lot of threads, Iori transforms into a tailor. Satsuki reveals Raju's goal. She wants to conquer the earth with her covers, so the earth will dress up. The Heavenly Four are surprised at such a stupid goal. Uzu notices this and Nanon begins to argue with him. Satsuki doesn't mind this comfortable buzz. Inumida hacks into one of the satellites from which he tracked down Raju, who is approaching the academy, so that the primeval fiber there would transmit a signal to the switch so that the whole world would be captured by the covers. Rockets hit the ship. Satsuki understands that she needs to act. She distributes the work to everyone. Ryuko feels that Satsuki is no longer a stranger. The sisters merge into their forms together. Satsuki's suit intercepted Senketsu's powers, and now Satsuki can fly too. A huge cover appears from the water and stops the ship. A cabinet flies from the sky, from which Mako emerges in her old Ultra form. Everyone is surprised by Mako's arrival. Iori knows that she is very strong, and he also sets a record for speed sewing. The huge cover attacks again. Mako takes out a powerful suction device and takes away part of the cover. The Heavenly Four stand in a stupor, and soon they also begin to act. Inumida explains to Satsuki that the living fibers of Raju may not grow together if you hit the threads twice. This was the conclusion of the creation of Bakuzen and the Scissors. Ryuko and Satsuki approach Raju. She stops them with living fiber swords. She stops them and begins to get angry when they step on her cover. The sisters transform into flying blades, but are still stopped by Raju. Ryuko decides to attack the fiber, but is shot down by missiles. Mako eats during the fight. Her strength increases. But other sources of covers arrive at the ship. A huge cover has begun to head towards the ship. It wants to absorb more and more. Mako is hit by an explosion and is bandaged by her father. There are more and more veils. Mako does not give up with all her strength. The entire Heavenly Four are jealous of her perseverance. They come to her aid, transforming into the last vestments of the form. With light movements, they peel off the covers. Ryuko and Satsuki are still fighting. Raju speaks out about overthrowing the plan, despising the Heavenly Four. Ryuko signals to Satsuki. She swoops down on Raju, who is defending herself with her swords, and cuts Ryuko in two. Mako is very worried. A primordial cover rushes past the ship. Satsuki is angry but cannot do anything against Raju, but she only gained time according to Ryuko's plan. During the cutting, Ryuko was restored thanks to the threads. Raju's blow is held by Ira. Nanon and Uzu arrive, who is able to break one of the life threads. His vision returned again. Now he is on a par with Raju. Inumida gives Bakuzen to Satsuki. The Heavenly Four attack in a crowd. Akiru decides to intervene and the ship shrinks into a dagger shape. Ryuko, inside the primordial cover, separates his scissors and tries to cut the core. The ship begins to be damaged. People cannot speed up its process. Mako decides to help the others. Mako comes to the aid of the others and turns the ship beyond recognition. The ship flies towards the core. Ryuko meets Mako, who excitedly started the ship with the others. Ryuko and the naked sun cuts the core. Raju could not have foreseen this. The ship flies into the academy and is destroyed into pieces. At the top, everyone is greeted by Harem, who reveals her latest creation Shinra Kokutsu. Raju restores Harem's arms. Satsuki thanks Iori for his work. The battle will begin here and soon. Soroi again pours tea for everyone. The Heavenly Four promise to return alive. The Mankenshoku family eats their food. Everyone is having fun and preparing for the final battle. Satsuki and Ryuko merge with the forms. The time has come to return the academy. The time for battle comes. The students run into the academy and make a mountain for Uzu. Attacking one of the barriers, he throws Uzu down. Satsuki fights Raju. Ryuko fights Harem. Raju wants to show what Shinra Kokutsu is capable of. She stops the ultra forms with a bright flash. Under the influence of unquestioning obedience, no one can move. Raju proves to everyone that her clothes are worn by the whole world. Nothing stops Kinegase and Akiru. They merged into one robot, but they are easily defeated. The primordial fiber breaks. The sea of blood heads towards Raju. Ira comes with the rest through obedience. Mako gets in the way of Harem, who impales Ira instead of Mako. She was already preparing to finish him off, but Ryuko protects Ira by removing her Senketsu so she could move without him. While Ryuko was fighting, Mako and the others were already saying goodbye to Ira. Ryuko desperately tried to hit Raju. Senketsu tried to stop her, who was calming by Satsuki. She could hear him. Raju grabs everyone to the cover, but she is stopped by a flying Senketsu, punching right through her. Everyone could move again, Satsuki transformed, and the others didn't lose heart either. Ryuko merges with Senketsu and attacks Raju. The Heavenly Four will take care of the transmitter, the mad Harime gets in their way, everyone copes with her clones. Survivor Era flies from the sky, and with his ego he makes a hole in the transmitter. Akiru and Kinigase launch a robot there, and it blows up the entire transmitter. Raju is chopped to pieces by her daughters. It seems that everything is over, but Raju asks Harime to throw away her body. Harime cuts himself and his clones, turning into a massive cover that connects with Raju. Raju's powers have increased. She flies into space to give a signal. She gets to the satellite and gives a signal to the covers. The whole world was covered in veils. Ryuko decides to save the world. Mako offers to go on a date if he wins. Ryuko is inspired by these words. She collects all the powers of all Ultra forms into one. Receiving a powerful form, she sets off after her mother. Raju meets his daughter in space. The whole Earth is already covered in veils, but Ryuko does not give up. Ryuko recovers her scissors. Ryuko tries to hit his mother, but it is powerless. Raju hits Ryuko back. The battle in space begins. Raju loses his last humanity by beating his daughter. With time running out, Ryuko specifically runs into Raju's attack, proclaiming her true powers and Senketsu's. Through determination, she stops Raju. She controls the fibers and they stop. The Earth becomes normal again. All the people return. Ryuko tries one last time to rethink her mother, but she destroys her heart, ending her existence. Senketsu asks to fly back to Earth. While Ryuko flies back, Senketsu dissolves and says goodbye to Ryuko for the last time. He asks her not to be sad and to wear whatever she likes from now on. Senketsu disappears. Ryuko comes to her senses due to Satsuki's screams. She catches her with the others. Ryuko returns home. The war between clothes and people ends. Mako and Ryuko have a date.